most definitely one of the last 3 that I've done with the shapes, and now I'm starting to apply them with my aesthetic. But I just really like that you kind of have that looking at them all as equals. But really cool. That's my thing. Just find that so humbling. That's really cool. I like that. But one of the few times I'm gonna look at the camera. What's up, folks? What's cracking? It's your boy Kyle, aka Track, aka Track Star. Yeah, this is my face. So what's up, y'all? We've had some requests, so by demand, we're gonna actually show the conversation, all that good stuff. This is the Artist Podcast. You already know what it is. I'm bringing a creative guest every time to talk about their process and how they get into things. So what we have right now is my guy Roger. Met him out at the East Austin Studio Tour. There's going to be a few of them I bring from this podcast from the East Austin Studio Tour. What we have is a visionary artist. So I'm going to do my own little interpretation, and it's not going to be anywhere near as good as what his is, and then we're going to get into his. The way I see how a visionary artist is he doesn't mean it in the terms of he is a visionary and sees the future. It's not like that. He literally uses all of his own visions. So he doesn't use any source images like I do, and I respect the hell out of that. So he literally goes off his own mind and creates these portraits and these really organic processes of making his own images based off of his own thoughts, his own things that he sees. And he goes off of things similar to how you look in the sky and see clouds and make your own shapes out of that. And he does some really, really awesome stuff. But Roger, thanks, man, for being on.
I'm super excited. Thanks
really
for asking me.
Appreciate it. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to explain it now that I did my little basic way of breaking it down of a visionary artist. How long have you considered yourself? How did you get to that point of titling yourself that? Because I know that can be
well, it's really interesting because I've never trained in art, and I think a lot of visionary artists haven't. That's one of the kind of hallmarks of it is no real formal training, and it's more about a process as opposed to the end goal being a finished product. But I was in the corporate world for a long time, and I was living over in London.
Okay.
And I'd been doing this corporate job for about 4 or 5 years, and the stress of it was just killing me, literally killing me, I felt. And so I decided to quit the job, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I just started playing around with pastels, just in a fun way, just to experiment with colors, and just I didn't know where it was going to lead. And I didn't fully understand what was happening at the time, but I found it to be a really energetic experience for me. So not only pleasurable from the standpoint of like relaxing and just having fun, but I also found it to be quite intense actually. And almost immediately, as I was working with pastels, I started to see shapes, in unintended shapes. I would even see letters and entire words kind of jump out of the abstract background, and then I began to see faces. And at first I thought, I think I might be going crazy here. I'm not sure. Because I just didn't know whether to believe what I was seeing. And basically it was taking me to this whole inner experience that I'd not allowed myself to have before, because I was just so distracted by the corporate world and everything else, all those responsibilities. And so it created this really deep inner experience for myself. I found myself remembering things that I hadn't, that I'd forgotten about a long time ago. I felt like I was receiving deep realizations of truth within myself
through the act of making this.
And what I was discovering through the process. So some might call it psychological, some might call it philosophical, some might call it spiritual, some might call it metaphysical. There were just these deep, profound realizations that I was having within myself that I knew that I wouldn't be having had I not been working with the art.
Right. Yeah. Visions. So
visions, yeah, visions of myself, visions of yeah. And what's so funny is I don't even know if it's on here. Now I'll have to show you a picture, but sure. In one of my early doodles, because it was not only just pastels, it was also kind of scribbling and doodling. Like, I don't know if they can see it here, but what's on here.
We'll get a good sharp image so people can see it, and we'll unpack that in a little bit as well.
But you said, Roger doesn't see into the future, but what's funny, I drew. It's hard to explain, but 5 years prior to me moving into a house that I lived in California, I went back through my old sketchbooks, and doodle books, and everything, and I had drawn a picture of the house. Now.
Wow.
It's not, everyone was, it'd be easy to say, well, yeah, all houses kind of look the same, right? Square, and, a roof and a couple of windows and a door. Right. What was unique about this is that it was, I drew a round house. And those aren't quite like so common.
So not four-sided house.
No.
Literally round, like a silo?
Like, yeah, but kind of wider. Like a round...
Wow, that's crazy.
It was a round house and a round window.
Common. I've never seen that before.
A round window, and I had drawn it in my sketchbooks, and then 5 years later, I found myself living in a house that looked like that.
And when you did that drawing, did you plan on moving in
the
future?
No.
Yeah, which makes it even more incredible. Yeah.
So. Wow. Call it what you like. It may not, maybe it's not.
You kind of saw the future. Yeah, kind of. Right.
Well, the thing is, amazing. And I think this is true of a lot of visionary artists. What I feel like we're tapping into through the creative process is the subconscious mind. Okay? And my belief is that the subconscious mind holds a knowingness outside of the linearity of time, and and so by tapping into the subconscious, we can connect with information that our conscious mind, our logical mind, normally wouldn't allow in.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So, you got me in such deep thoughts. I feel like I've had a slight moment of drawing the future. And I feel like I can relate to it because it wasn't a plan, and it's easy, and I get it because it's easy to down it. Like, I guess my example is, I got to see the David in real life. So that was an awesome experience for me. Now, the part that was like touching to me and almost shed one when it happened was the fact that, like, I think 2, maybe 3 years before that, I did a musical project. One of my first few solo projects musically that I had done, and for the cover, I drew a cover of me in a backpack looking up at the David in real life.
Oh, wow.
So to fast forward 2 to 3 years later, and it was actually happening, and as I drew that, I wasn't planning on going to Italy in 2 years. It wasn't even in my thought process.
Right.
And just the fact that had happened like that, like, it was touching. Like, I don't know, and I wasn't. So I get that, because it's not like I was planning on it to happen or nothing like that. So when it happens, you can't help but look at that image and be like, whoa, that's crazy that happened just like that. Like, it's nuts. So
yeah, and it's not like that sort of thing doesn't happen all the time.
Right, of course.
It just, there's these little peaks and moments that happen, and most of the time it doesn't, you don't know that it's happening when it's happening. You only know later on when it's actually happened.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't go to my sketchbook or my drawing pad or the canvas with the intention of seeing my future.
Right, of course, yeah.
But it's later, sometimes you make that connection and you're like, oh my gosh.
Wow. Or make a connection with the past.
Yeah.
And as you was doing it, you didn't realize you was doing that until you look at the image at another period.
Yeah.
And just boom, you're like, oh my, yeah, that's really cool how that happened. So now I'm curious, as you was getting into this, did you have prior experiences with art, or was you artsy as a child at all?
No.
So that's fascinating, because most of the time those connections happen when you're younger.
Yeah.
and then we kind of break out of it because life can be so serious. And a lot of times I found that a lot of people, you have that when you're younger, and then when you break off that into the more serious jobs, most people don't come back to that.
Yes.
Or if they do, it's not until way later on in life, which is, what do you think drew you to even wanting to sit down to create something with you said pastels is what you first started with?
Yeah. I was just looking for ways to relax. And there was just kind of something inside me at the time that said, you just need to have more fun in your life. And so I can't explain why it was pastels and art that I wanted to explore. But I just did. Yeah, it's just one of those things where you feel like life is kind of guiding you where you need to go.
It just felt right. And you might not know why, but it feels right, or just feels better than whatever else you was doing. So you took that and just continued to do it, and just steadily evolved without a coach or without any mentor.
Well, now, so after that, those initial experiences and these things started to happen that I couldn't really explain, and it was kind of freaking me out a little bit. So then I started to kind of see if there was anybody else out there doing what I was doing. And I was still in London at the time, and there was this lady who I'll forever be grateful to. Her name is June Elaney Lane. And so she just happened to be running a class in London. I forget what it was called. It was something about opening your intuitive senses through art. And so I went to explore that. And that even opened my eyes even further. And so there was a group of about 8 to 10 of us that were kind of all doing the same thing. And so we met together once a week for like several years. So I did continue to develop with her guidance in that. But it was always, she was always never, like, specific techniques were never taught. It was more about creating the space and the environment where everyone could kind of do their own thing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And we're exploring the same kind of things.
I think that's really, really cool to have a teacher that guides you but doesn't restrict you. And I think that's it's really easy to, once you get into a series of doing things after so long and getting successful, quote unquote, to whatever that success means for us, I think it's really easy to get comfortable with something and then telling other people, do it like this. Like, for example, my first getting back into, when I just was kind of falling in love with art again, because I've had my periods where I neglected art and got back into it. One of the first drawing class I got into, and this was a big benchmark for me because I didn't really connect with this teacher at all. We just had so many moments where we clashed, but I loved the class so much that I didn't even care. And that's in retrospect afterwards, I'm like, damn, I must really love this shit, because like, we didn't like each other really, or we just didn't vibe. We got comfortable with each other prior to, afterwards. But anyways, I vividly remember a point where she was trying to tell me how to hold the pencil. And could I have been more open-minded at that time? Of course, I probably could have been. But my logic was like, yo, I've been drawing since, I don't even know how long. At this point, since at least 4, I don't know if I can teach my hand how to hold a pencil any different. From 4 to I think 21, 22, however old I was, that's a long time to do anything. And at that point, not to say that you can't change your shot after 10 years or change a technique after 10 years, but I just think that some of those motor skills that I'm looking for, I think some of those just come so natural that in my mind I'm like, I'm not gonna hold a pencil any different. Yo, do you even think about the way you hold a pencil, really? I don't know, that's just
not me. But I mean, and that's the thing, that's why I've never really taken formal classes, is because I've come to understand through my own process that it has to be, in order for me to access the experience that I want to access, it has to be completely free. And so anytime, if I've got a certain way of doing things, it just begins to limit the experience, and that blocks the flow for me. So I'm constantly trying to find ways to change up my process So, you know, we've got the doodles. These are just like pen and ink drawings here. And then we did I've got the pastels. I showed you a video earlier of me pushing one of my sketchbooks into the dirt and creating an abstract background that way. I'll also, sometimes I'll kind of do my drawing and doodling upside down or with my eyes closed, so I constantly have to push myself outside of any habits that might be building up.
Right. So with that, and it's of course no trick questions, just genuinely curious. How do you know when you're done? Or like just me personally, like I think so much, and I think we're kind of opposites in this. You're such a freeing, just go with the flow type person, and I admire that so much. But for the way that I go, like I'm very technically sound with knowing different compositional rules and when you should, not necessarily when you should do something or when you should do something, but I like the fact that I know, okay, I'm normally in a composition you should do this, but I'm not going to do this because this, and that reasons. And I kind of rationalize when I'm done with something based off of different rules like that. And some of those different things, what to use with shapes and where to apply colors and different things like that. And I can't imagine how I would ever know when I'm done with something, or even for that matter, how I wouldn't know how to explain when I like something or how to dislike something without some of that formal training. So I guess it's a few questions on that. Like, how do you know when you like or dislike something, or how do you know when you're done with your own pieces? How do you get to those points?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've never even really thought about that.
Because you do it well. You do it.
Well, it's interesting because I do feel like, well, it's hard to say because, you know, some pieces that I love, other people don't like so much, and then the ones that I don't like so much, other people like oh in love with.
What?
Yeah.
Right.
And so you can never really judge it, can you? I don't think you can. And then in terms of it being done, it's interesting. Usually, because a lot of my work is done for other people. And creating, it's almost like a therapeutic way that I work with other people through art. So some sort of timeline happens where it almost like it has to be done. Otherwise, I think I could probably continue working on a piece forever because there's just it's always unfolding. So, but I've come to realize that there is no, that perfection is just, it's you can't define what it is, because, well, just like what we said earlier, some people love it, some people hate it, and it's always going to be the case. So I can never look at something and say this is the best I've ever done, or this is done, or anything like that. It just kind of is what it is, and then somehow time dictates what happens with it.
Yeah, it's like perfection is something that you're chasing and you feel like you're getting so much closer to it, but you can never grab it.
Yeah,
it's interesting how that works. But with that, it seems like do you get stressed about that? Because you seem like you just such an easygoing guy that alone, just that understanding of not knowing when it's done, that drives some artists insane. Does that happen to you, or do you stress yourself out about it, or
I mean, it's just you know, it is what it is, and then I could have something, you know, be done for several months, and then I'll look at it and like, oh yeah, okay, I see something else, and then I can just add a little bit more to it if it's still hanging in my house, or my studio. So no, I've never. It's funny because I've never really. I think what you're expressing is probably a common question or a common issue for a lot of artists, but because I don't come from a traditional art background, maybe it's just I've never even really thought about it. I don't know.
Probably. That makes a lot of sense.
And I mean, if I did have to put a definition to it, I'd probably say it's just a feeling, like it's a feeling that is done, as opposed to it kind of ticking the boxes.
That might be one of the best examples of that quote, ignorance is bliss.
Yes.
That might be one of the best examples. I never even really believed in that quote too much, but this makes so much sense in your case because you don't know all the rules and things like that. You don't ever get bent up on it because you're just doing it until you're pleased with it and happy. And
absolutely. No, I mean, I think I think it's huge. Ignorance is bliss. The other term is beginner's luck, right? And I think what that's really saying is people that are ignorant in the way that we're describing it, they don't have any fears because they don't have any expectations. So if I'm coming into a place and drawing something for someone, and you know, I'm not professing to be an artist,
right?
You know, a trained artist,
right?
Then I come in with it without any expectations, and it's a more free experience, and therefore beautiful things happen during that. But the minute we start to put our own judgments onto something, we start to create limitations for ourselves, and it starts to, what I would say, blocks the creative flow.
Right. So did you learn this in life prior to you getting back into art, or did you ever have to learn that the hard way with art?
I feel like art is what's really made me realize that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. But now that I apply that knowledge and look backwards in life, I can see all sorts of experiences where, you know, ignorance is bliss, and people have beginner's luck. It's because they come into something without any expectations about the final outcome. And when you do that, then there's nothing to be afraid of. If it's not supposed to look like something at the end of it, then there's no fear in the process.
Wow. So I think that's a really good segue into what initially drug me into loving your art so much. I believe it was this one here, wasn't it? Yeah, and that was right here at that time when I came in East Austin Studio Tour. And what I was really drawn to, guys, was the fact that I've journaled, and I've had many moments of putting my thoughts down, whether it be through writing, through just making different random Facebook posts, or just, I like to put my thoughts down on things, but I've never had the courage to literally put those thoughts on top of my images that I deemed art.
Right.
And just putting those two together, just to me personally, I think that took when I saw that, I just saw courage immediately, just because, especially the fact that I think I asked you if you plan on doing that, and you was like, no, you kind of just went with it, and and just one day just decided to start putting you cut those out, correct? You cut pages out, right?
I mean, the way this, I guess a couple of things to say about this.
I guess let's get to the story of how you got to these type of things.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that, so back in the beginning, when I was having all these deep inner realizations through the creative process that I was talking about, all of these thoughts and deep truths that were coming into my awareness, I would write them down. So just words, and I would just doodle things. Sometimes the doodles were connected to what I was feeling. Sometimes the doodles weren't connected at all. They were just something that I was doing while I was thinking.
Which, once again, guys, no images, no source images. Like, ever? You've never used a source image for anything?
Oh, no, I've tried, and it looks terrible.
Got you.
I can't look at something and draw. I mean, I can, but it's...
Right.
I'm very judgmental of it, and I don't think, I don't think it looks nearly as good as the stuff that I create.
That's
when I'm not doing that.
Amazing to me. But my bad, go ahead.
But,
go ahead.
So I would write all these things down, and then I would just doodle, and these, you know, faces and images. Like this image right here came completely out of a doodle as well. And so I've never considered myself an artist, so to speak. And I came to rent this studio space, and they told me about this upcoming art show, which is where we met.
Right.
And they're like, do you want to show your stuff there? And so I had a few things that I wanted to show, but then I didn't feel like I had enough. But time was running out. And I was going through all my old journals, just trying to get some inspiration and connect back to some of the experiences that I'd had in the past. And I fell in love with some of the images that I'd drawn in the sketchbooks. Then I thought about trying to recreate them bigger onto, you know, canvases and paint, and I just thought, I don't have time to do all that. And then I just had the idea, what if I just put these original images onto a canvas? And then I thought about combining them, and then this became this fun, free-flowing process for me. because I didn't put too much thought into which picture went where. It was more about what fit, and how it fit. And then after it was completed, I went back and I just read all the words and how they coincided with some of the images, and I was able to find additional meaning in that came through this subconscious process of putting it all together.
That's incredible.
So all of this, the collages were a complete afterthought, and it was really just a way for me to get something up in a very short amount of time. But I would say that they proved to be the most popular things that I showed.
Yeah, I was wondering in terms of how the masses received that, because I think so many people can appreciate that, but then in terms of like whether it would sell, or there's so many factors into that I've never even, because I've never once again had the courage to even do that. But so that got very well received, huh? Throughout most of your stuff that you've shown, that's the stuff.
This is because they would come and they would stop at it and they would look at it and they would read it. They would become engaged with it, and kind of take them on their own little process. And
wow, see, so many different of the compositional rules pop in my head when I see stuff like this, because from what I've learned is just to put, whether it be like eyeballs or words, as soon as you put words on something, people's eyes are going to immediately get drawn to it. But the fact that it was so organically done, and you can tell by the different fonts, you can tell you was in different moods when you did some of this. You can tell this wasn't all done in one period, and all of that all those scattered thoughts being put together makes it cohesive, because it wasn't cohesive. So that all that uncohesiveness makes something that works together as one.
Cohesive, interesting.
Right, without you focusing on one word or one spot, and it's all spread out so well. So that it's amazing how that came out into playing. You said you started at one point and kind of started branching off, right? Or
on the canvas?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember which one. I probably started with this image down here, and then just started to build and expand, and I just cut things out. And as I was going through the journals, I would cut things out that looked interesting, but not knowing ultimately where they would go. And then it just, everything found its place.
Right, yeah, and I remember you saying certain shapes would start to fall into where it should be based off the empty spaces and stuff like that. That's amazing. See, like where to start something like that can be so stressful for so many people as well, but it's one of the perfect aesthetics for you because you're so carefree. So we'll see how it goes and see where it doesn't go, but
yeah, and also there wasn't a lot of time to think about it. This was literally done, I don't know, at most 2 days before the beginning of
the whole thing from start to finish.
Yeah.
Oh wow, you was moving.
And so there wasn't a lot of time to think, and I think that's one of the pitfalls for a lot of people in general. Is they become too analytical about things, they overthink things, and that just kills the creative process. And so when you don't have the luxury of time to satisfy that analytical mind, something else takes over, and it's that subconscious mind. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. So I'm trying to think on whether I want to go first into the more portrait aspects, or I think I have another question in terms of because you're so tapped into going with the flow and going how things are. I'm curious as to some of your moods, or if you have a particular mood when you're going into this, or when you're going into any of your pieces. I think the reason being is, like, for me personally, when I sit down, I kind of, because I have an image in front of me that I'm going off of, I kind of shut my brain off because of I have an image. Yeah. And I think I have my periods where I'm thinking, especially now that I have an aesthetic and I'm applying other things outside of just that image, I'm starting to think more. So thank you for being a little more creative now, creative gods. But but for you, it's clearly much more of a dynamic process with your thoughts. So I'm curious as to how that works. Or is your mind the same? Do you feel like your mind kind of shuts off and kind of goes with it too? Do you think much about?
It's interesting. So that's a big question.
Right, yeah, I'm sorry.
No.
What I'm trying to ask, I guess, do you have a particular zone you're into?
No, when I say it's a big question, like it's not that it's too big.
Okay.
I'm just trying to come up with an answer that doesn't take an hour to
That's cool. We got
to
time.
answer.
We got time.
But so here's what I would say to that is, for me, working with art is an energetic experience. And so when I come to a blank canvas with no specific intention of what I'm going to create, I feel like I am connecting to energy around me. And so I then feel like, and this may be way out there for some people, I then feel like I become one with that energy. Not like I disappear or it disappears,
right.
but like we meet in a common place, basically. And because that energy is not defined by physical boundaries like I am with my body, I feel like the feelings associated with that energy I internalize, and they become my feelings. So this whole artistic process, because it's creative and it stimulates the right hemisphere of the brain, right? So the right hemisphere, left hemisphere of the brain is very logical. So, okay, I've got to have this composition, and this in this place, no words, or I've got to add a shape here, or whatever it is, whatever those logical things that the left mind is thinking. The right side of the brain is the opposite of that. Doesn't care about time, doesn't care about space, doesn't care about, there's no judgment there, there's nothing. It's just openness, and it is oneness. And so because art has taken me in there, I go with it. So the logical mind for me kind of gets completely left behind in the creative process. And therefore, because I'm in the energy of oneness, I know this is getting kind of complex, there's no difference between me and the energies that I'm connecting with. So does that make sense? So
yeah, to me, yeah, it doesn't. It feels like I feel similar in that regard. I may be not as able to articulate it quite like that, but just, I don't know. I just figured there was just so many. You can just tell by the different ways that you're writing things down, and just being so tapped into.
Right.
I just kind of assumed that it was more thought in terms of like, oh, I'm getting an angry emotion out now or a sad emotion out now. But
well, yeah, well, that's the thing. So it always, and thank you for bringing me back around to that. So whatever I'm experiencing in oneness with the energy around me is always, always, always showing me something about myself.
Right.
It's always reflective. Everything's reflective in nature. So yeah, so if an image comes out angry or strong or sad or whatever it is, I feel like that is a message to me about something that I'm looking at inside of myself.
But it's not being thought about you're doing it.
I'm not approaching it by, I've got anger inside of me, therefore I want to draw something angry.
You're just releasing the energy out for whatever that energy might be.
Because sometimes I can feel really peaceful, but then I go to the canvas and something stronger and more forceful will actually come out. So then that makes me kind of go in. It's like, oh, okay, there's something inside there that I wasn't quite conscious of. But I feel like I'm being shown something here that I didn't see before. So it's something to explore. Yeah.
That's really awesome. I like that. So I'm gonna continue to get into the portraits, but I'm gonna try and unpack it from how you start right at the beginning, or at least from what you've shown me. That video of taking the dirt and the clay and rubbing it on there and using it as a wash of sorts. So when did you get to that? And I think that's brilliant to use that, and to fill them in a little bit from like how you told me he'll use a wash, whether it's pastel or dirt or anything, he'll use a wash and kind of look at that and analyze that and look at that kind of like a cloud study, just like like when you're looking in the clouds and you make an image out of that, he'll look at that and from that point on start to draw images on top of that stuff. But how did you get into that process?
That started very early on, like from even before I realized what I was doing. I would just because I didn't have the artistic skills to look at something and draw it. My intention was more just to play with colors or whatever. So I would create something very abstract, but then I would see, as I was looking at my work, I would see stuff within the abstract. So it was never anything that I tried to do. It just happened. So I would see like the profile of a face or an eye, or I would even see numbers or letters or words. And so did I answer your question?
I'm not sure, but I'm not sure. My mind's going so fast. This is such a fun process to me because I ask a question and then sometimes the things that you say inspire further questions. So it's this weird dance between, okay, you got to be engaged and listen still, but then I'm like, ooh, but what am I going to ask next? This like little dance I'm doing.
I understand.
So on that one, you might have stumped me in terms of like answering that question, but it makes sense to me though. In terms of, like you said, you started that all out like that. So this was in the very, you did answer it actually. Okay. This was in the very beginning. You've kind of been doing it.
Nothing I ever tried to do. It just started, it just felt like it was happening to me. I mean, I've now understand from a wider perspective my role in that. But in the very beginning, it felt like something was happening to me as opposed to me doing something to it on the canvas. It almost felt like there was this external, wider, universal, energetic force that was connecting with me through the art, and I could still say that from a perspective, because I consider it to be a spiritual experience, the creative process, the art making process, not from a religious standpoint, but from something bigger than me.
So how long have you been back in the creative process? I guess I should ask first.
So I left the corporate world in 2009. So about 8.5 years, I guess.
Okay, awesome. When did you get to the point? I'm curious as to think if you think you are, but you can't tell me that your proportions aren't extremely strong. Like this, though, she's gorgeous. He, whatever he or she is, the proportions on this person, the chin and the smooth jawline, and the profile views are very hard, my friend. Like very hard to do. I don't even know if I could do a strong profile like that without it. I mean, I could, but it'd take me some time. Like it'd take quite a bit of time. So when did you get to this point? Because I'm sure this was within the organic process of you just doing your style of. How do you feel about your take on realism, I guess is what I'm asking. Do you think that you're proficient? Because I do, personally.
Really? No, I've never considered my stuff to be realistic.
Okay.
But I'll take the compliment, because I really enjoy looking at realistic stuff.
Right.
But I've never... All I can say is that the work continues to reveal itself to me. And I don't think my skills have improved. What I do think has improved is my ability to let go of fear and let go of control. So the more I can let go of control of what I'm doing, meaning the logical mind, then the better, the more clear this stuff comes to me. Right. So everything that you see here was really it was hidden within the pastels. It was just already there. It just felt like all I had to do was kind of highlight what was already there.
Right.
So yeah, for me, the pictures feel like they draw themselves.
So has your confidence grown in any regard in terms of whether it's completing a piece, or even has your confidence grown in drawing a nose or drawing anything in particular, or are you still just I just go with what?
Yeah, no, I think it has improved. But I don't think it's because of any skill I've acquired. artistic skill. I think it's because I've continually learned to let go of fear, as opposed to me acquiring some ability.
So if someone asked you to, so if someone came up and said, "Hey, draw a nose just like that," you think at that point would you be able to, or do you think it'd be more difficult because it'd be taking you into the analytical mind?
Yeah, it would be more difficult, and I don't think it would look as good as what it looks like now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fascinating. I had that theory about myself for quite some time. Once I draw something once, I can't draw it again. But at this point, I'm like, I can draw it again. It'll probably be better the second time. But I like the fact that that's amazing. I bet you'd surprise yourself through time. But I respect the fact that you know your mind enough to know this is my comfort zone, and I'd rather not go to this part of it because you already have a spot that you're comfortable with.
Yeah, I don't like the energy of trying to do something.
Right.
I prefer the energy of let's see what comes through.
Right.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Now, have you ever done it?
What?
And been proud of yourself? Like, have you forced yourself to try something and then completed it?
Yes, but I'm not proud of it, and I don't like it. I wish I had some of my. I've got some pictures like that
when you actually was making a conscious effort to pull a certain image off.
Yeah, because I would periodically try, and it's just
Right, yeah. One of my first art mentors when I got back into art and was studying art in college, he would laugh anytime I got like super frustrated with it. And I can even laugh at it now just because I think he was more like you in the sense of like, dude, just go with it. Quit. Like he's like, you're so damn detailed. You want to get every little detail in what he's trying to say is, Kyle, you don't have to. Like, to pull off a successful, strong piece that you would be proud of, you don't need to get every groove and the knuckles and like all the little stuff that I was so bent up on for so long. But that's just awesome that that doesn't happen at all because you don't have to. You're not in that. You're literally using the other side of the mind. So that whole
yes,
right. And I'd argue for me personally, if I could get more into that mode, that whatever it is, that whatever success that I'm reaching for, I could probably get to it a little bit smoother without.
It'd be interesting for you to play with. And it's not like you have to choose one or the other.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's
they can be completely different experiences.
Right. So on this one in particular, the one with it just reminds me of Egypt so much, of course. Because of the, I wish I remember the terminology of the.
I don't know what it's called either, but the pharaoh's had.
Yeah, the pharaoh beard. And was you inspired by that with the hieroglyphs that you started to put on there as well? Which those aren't Egyptian symbols, but it's of course going to have that type of effect when you put that with such a strong image like this. Or what inspired this, do you think? So
now this one, a large part of the work that I do is for clients. Okay. So I work with people in a self-exploration or a self-development process through art. So basically, someone will come to me and say, I want you to create a piece of art for me, and then we will use that art that serves as a platform or a springboard for us having a deeper conversation that goes into very personal aspects of their lives, almost in a therapeutic way.
Right.
So if people are kind of feeling, if they've got questions about purpose in life, or they're trying to break out of repetitive cycles, or they've got some sort of problem in their life, or they're trying to heal something, or what have you, and maybe traditional therapy hasn't really worked for them. And I find that's true for a lot of creative people. Right. Like the very analytical, psychotherapeutic kind of stuff doesn't work for them. Then they might come to me and say, let's see what we can uncover through this other process. Right. So I will create a piece of art for them that then in turn becomes a basis of discussion for us going deeper into their own lives. And that's what this is. Yeah. So. Oh, so you had the conversation with the client and then went into creating this art? No conversation yet. Oh, the conversation is yet to come. It's basically just intention at this point. I'm going to create a piece of art for this client. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what it's going to look like.
Right.
I don't even know what we're going to talk about. I'm going to create the art first.
And they know that you don't have an idea of what it's going to be.
Yeah.
That's amazing to me. But they clearly saw your stuff already and like you and trust you enough to like, all right, I'm going to let you take off and just, that's amazing. Wow.
So now that I've created this, you know how I was talking earlier about how I feel one with the energy, right? So for me, this is a physical translation of something energetic. And now that I've created it in this way, I feel this bond with it. I feel like I'm becoming one with it when I look at it. And I will even, don't let this freak you out, but I will even feel the voice of it, what I consider the voice of it. Now, a lot of artists talk about, you know, the voice of the art. Right. Yeah. Speaks to me on some level. Well, I kind of take that to a literal place. And I will begin speaking words that I feel emerging in my heart as I look at the picture. And that will also be a part of my experience with my client. So
so is this what inspires some of the hieroglyph images, or are you just talking about just what in general what's speaking to you afterwards when you're completely done?
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like I get these internal thoughts as I'm creating it all during the entire process, and then when it's completed, you know, I will again speak with the client as if the words that are emerging in my heart based on what I'm feeling as I look into this picture.
Right.
And that becomes so. But again, nothing of this was planned. It was just the pastel wash, as you say. I never had that term, a wash. I'm glad you gave that to me. So
no problem.
Now helps me explain that better to people in a way that they'll understand.
Yeah.
And the first thing that I saw on this was just kind of where the nose was, right? I just saw this kind of the bump in the nose, like a really strong nose.
The nose, it's so strong.
Yeah. And then
so strong.
And then once I saw where that was, then the logic does start to come in a little bit. You start to begin to look for where the mouth might be based on that, but not what the mouth will actually look like.
Right.
So kind of see where the mouth should be, and then I'll see other lines that kind of inform what the mouth should actually look like, and then it just continue on until you've got this whole figure here. Right. And then as I looked around it, this thing. Sometimes things that look like mistakes end up being. I just haven't realized what they are yet. Right. So like the chin, it was like happy accidents. So the chin was like too long. And I was like, well, that doesn't look right. And then I just saw more coming out, and I was like, oh, okay, that's like, it's like this extension, like the pharaoh. And then the head had begun to be longer, and I thought, oh, is that like one of those caps that the pharaohs wore? But it ended up just being an elongated. For me, this is kind of like an alien, an Egyptian alien.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It was
like a crossbreed between the two.
Some Egyptian pharaoh meets the Coneheads for me.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which, damn, I'm old. Really old reference for anybody within the new millennium. Like, what the fuck the Coneheads?
Saturday Night Live, 1970s.
Oh no.
80s.
Oh no. That was a while ago. I was little.
But yeah, and then I just started to see these symbols all around that were just kind of there, in just kind of laying in the more subtle parts of the pastels, and then that kind of fit with this Egyptian theme, you know, and like you said, the hieroglyphics, and I feel like I'm going to be able to tell a story by looking at these, but I also think my client is not only going to benefit from the experience that they have with me, but this is going to be like a picture that they keep with them, and it will continue to speak to them long after. Like, how many stories can you make up out of these hieroglyphs? Right. You know?
Right.
And yeah, so that's how that kind of works for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I love this piece. She's definitely a she, in my opinion. Could argue it could be a pretty male, but I just feel like it's just female features.
I think it's, yeah. Yet it's got the beard, so it's, yeah, it's, I mean, I think we all have masculine, feminine energies. There were some
Egyptian queens that were depicted as...
Did they have the beard?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Nefertiti was such a powerful ruler that she wanted to be depicted as a male.
I didn't know that.
She was that powerful and made that much impact that she's like, you depict me as these males just to make sure that we're never going to get it confused. Yeah. She was definitely the HBIC.
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay. Which to me was like what a power move. Like, whoa, like you go ahead, girl. Yeah. So yeah, even though I saw the beard, I never for a second, like I just saw like gorgeous face, which some people could look and like, how you call this alien head looking thing gorgeous? But if you made a normal head on that, put any hairstyle you want, she is beautiful. Like, unless granted she turns and something's wrong with the other side of her face, like Two-Face. Nah, that's a beautiful woman as far as I'm concerned. That's my imagination, at least.
No, she is pretty, yeah.
So in the finishing part, I'm curious now, because once you're done and it's a whole therapeutic, we'll take it as it goes process, and we'll see how we feel about it afterwards. Has there ever been a time where you're taking the finished piece to the client and you still haven't processed how you feel about it yet, or in terms of like when they're like, so what inspired this? Have you ever had I don't know yet. Have you ever had one of those?
Yeah, I learned a long time ago. Don't ask me when, because I can't tell you when.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I learned a long time ago that to say I don't know is perfectly acceptable.
Word.
You don't have to always have the answers. And so there are some times that I say that. But I've never gone into a session with someone where it was just completely blank space, you know. Something always emerges, and it becomes a free-flowing, collaborative experience, whether the other person realizes it or not. So, for instance, you just added something to the picture now for me. So this idea of Nefertiti.
Oh yeah.
Right? Nefertiti.
The way I remember was Nefertiti, but I might not be pronouncing it right either.
So Nefertiti.
Don't judge me.
So I'm gonna. Yeah, I know. So I'm gonna go like you said. In my mind, you said that for a reason. So you've added now something to the conversation.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna go see. And there's something there. There's something about. Well, you're like female empowerment or. Maybe just empowerment in general, or kind of breaking gender roles, or whatever it is. That no doubt in my mind that will be something to explore with my client.
Which even speaks with the times, with right now, and sexuality being such a huge thing. Whether it's switching sexuality or women wanting to look like men or just simply treated as equals, it speaks so strongly to society even today.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So it just blows my mind that somebody's like, yo, I'm going to pay you for something and I don't know what it's going to look like yet. Like that, I love that. The fact that enough people trust that. I just know how I work, so that's just amazing to me. I couldn't imagine, for one, signing off for that. Like, I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars and we'll see what it looks like. And then I'm like, so what inspired this? And then you're like, I don't know. Okay, cool. Here's your money. And then just running with that. That's amazing to me. But I respect all of that honesty so much. 'Cause I'm like that with people sometimes. I think even myself when I was younger, it just didn't. Like, it's okay to not know. Like, you don't have to know everything. You don't owe anybody an answer. You don't have to force an answer out if you don't know it.
Well, yeah. And then the other thing that I realized is that when people come to have this experience for me, they're coming for the process as opposed to the finished product. It's more about what comes out of it,
which makes more sense.
The experience,
right? And experiencing it together, because they already know they're going to experience that before they even. Wow, mind's blown. Now I'm caught up to you.
So, and and that's allowed me to let go some of my own judgment on my pictures. Because I'm not going to say I'm without judgment on any of my pictures, even though I enter into a place of non-judgment when I create it. When I come out of that space,
of course, yeah.
I still become judgmental of my own stuff. But I've learned to let that go, because I know deep within myself that it's really not about what this is in the end. It's about what happens to them, what happens to me, what happens to us together, what kind of realizations they come to, how they continue to explore, you know, their psyche, their inner feelings, and that's really what it's about for me. Yeah.
Right. That's awesome. That's amazing. So, real quick, I'm gonna selfishly ask for my own learning purpose. Is this all pastel?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Some of the black is a charcoal pencil.
Okay.
But,
I know pastel is it's very. I don't know what the word I'm looking. It's soft, so you can manipulate that to get the soft features.
Yeah.
Around her head. Did you rub with your hands?
Yes.
Afterwards?
Yeah.
Okay.
I get my fingers involved. And again, the more I get my fingers involved, I find that stuff happens that I don't intend to happen, and it takes me to places that I didn't intend to go to, and then that's when something really magical appears.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's amazing the fact that you put this wash down first with all of those colors, because the way that green and blue goes into the back of her skull and into her chin, you would think you made that portrait and then did that.
Yeah, no.
And then maybe put it on the side. But the fact that all, like, it really seemed like I would love to see 100 different artists make something that fits that shape quite as well as that. So it really looks like it was meant for that skull.
If you don't mind, just a little bit of a shameless plug.
Yeah, of course not. Go ahead. Do you think?
But just it does relate to the conversation here. So if anyone that's watching this wants to see this process as it unfolds, like from wash to definition to final product, I've got lots of videos on YouTube where people can see that. So,
what's the YouTube page?
Roger Hanson Love.
Roger Hanson Love?
Yeah.
Cool, and that makes it easy. That's your Instagram name too, correct?
Yeah.
That makes it easy. Cool, that's awesome. That's so cool. How long in the art making process did you get to the point to where you was comfortable with showing your process or having other people watch your process?
I would say maybe 3 or 4 years.
3 or 4 years?
Yeah, where I was putting it out in public. I mean, there were always other people around in this group that I was exploring with, and you know, so it was never completely private. But when I started putting it out there, yeah, 3 or 4 years, I would say, maybe a little less. Yeah,
that's cool. As you've been going throughout the years, do you have, not that you need one, it's almost tragic picking one, do you have a medium that you're drawn to the most? And if not, what medium do you think you've spent the most time on?
Yeah, you know what's funny? I never worked with acrylics before just a few months ago. It was only because in my mind, and I know this is wrong, but in my mind this East Studio tour was about painters, you know. I don't know why that, so I felt like I had to paint, and I've enjoyed exploring with paint.
I mean, the strong majority of the artists there were painters.
Yeah.
Probably like 3/4 of them. Probably more than that, really.
But I love the pastels, as messy as they are, just because, well, like you said, this blending and how it kind of mingles with each other is really great. And then the other thing that I'll do with this is I'll scan it after it's complete, and then I'll digitally enhance it as well. So I can make some of the other colors pop, and so yeah. It's almost like 2 different works of art then. That's
awesome.
Yeah.
That's you using a little analytical mind.
That is a little, yeah.
That's what's up. See, you got it in you. You got a little bit of that in you. But I can appreciate that just so much, because I can try and be as technical as I want to be, and I can try and master every skin shade and shape and all of that, but it's just so much more practical and convenient and all of that to just let go and just, I wouldn't get that going from that.
Yeah, well, you would.
Pinkish red to the green to the yellow. Well, no, being as analytical as I am.
No, but you would, if you were working with pastels in the way that I was working with it, you would, because it would just happen by accident.
Right, but I go into the whole piece knowing what I want to accomplish.
Oh, right, yeah.
I deal with those. So see, I'd have to unlock something a little different in my mind.
Yeah.
If I wanted to just smoothly get those transitions like that, I could force it, but it would take me hours compared to as long as however, I bet it didn't take you as long as it would. It'd just be funny. And it'd be therapeutic even watching the two processes. Because you see me stop and put a little color in there, and then I'd look at it some more, put a little color in there, maybe throw something, get a little angry, versus watching you. I'd imagine it's wow, he looks like he's having so much fun. Or just like, wow, he looks like he's having a way better time than Kyle is over there trying to do the exact same thing. I think that's just why I respect that so much. Or just through the putting the notes on the different pieces as well. Just that, I guess that's just why it connected to me so much, just because it's such a polar opposite of how I go into something.
Right.
So I just couldn't help but just appreciate it just off of the strength of that opposite end of it. So you said was the acrylic paint? Is that the one that you? Oh no, pastel.
This is pastels.
Pastel's the one that you think you like the most.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, what I really enjoy doing is the pastels that move then into a digital process as well. Yeah.
Did you have any digital experience prior to doing this?
No, I'm just learning that. Yeah. And I mean, compared to most graphic artists out there, right. I mean, my knowledge base in it is just very, very small. All I really do, for the most part, is able to just deepen colors and definition and that sort of thing. I don't really alter anything so much about the original image. It's just kind of you can achieve a depth of color through saturation and those kind of things in Photoshop that you just can't get with the pastels. But I think that they both have really nice qualities in and of themselves. Yeah.
So you teach as well, correct?
Yeah, I teach a process much like what we've been talking about. And it's not a course for artists. I mean, artists do take it. It's not. I'm not teaching artistic skill.
Right. You're not teaching. Yeah. You're not teaching somebody how to do something, but more so to.
I'm teaching people how to let go.
Yeah.
How to let go. How to be free with their work, and how to open up their mind to what's wanting to be presented from the subconscious mind. How to make the subconscious conscious, and how to take that into a place of self-realization, self-development, self-empowerment, and simply to just have fun. Yeah.
Right. So if you could, without of course giving away the full secrets to your whole course, could you articulate on some of those things on how to help someone free that mind?
I think for me it's really about letting go of control. So I teach people how to just take random colors, like I did here, and just place them on the canvas, and then to just step back from it, look at it like you said earlier, like you're looking up at the clouds. And seeing what, helping them to, what do you see first? Do you see a nose? Do you see an eye? Do you see, or is it something else? Do you see a bird? Or, just starting somewhere and never forcing anything. Even once you found the nose, not to then go on and force the rest of the face. Yeah, because I think when people do that, I mean, it's different for you because you're using models and they all look different.
Right.
But if someone's not using models, and then they go into an analytical place, what you see is like all their faces look exactly the same. All the eyes look the same, all the nose look, because the logical mind has an idea of what that's supposed to look like.
Wow. Huh.
But if you can let go of that control, then a much more diverse subject matter will arise from the work. So I teach people to let go of control. And one way is through these pastels, another one is through doodling, right?
Okay.
So to do a very fast doodling, like, I don't know if the camera catches this, but this would just look like a doodle, and then I just began to see, you know, the bottom and the shoulder, and then I saw the baby in there. It's just like a mother figure holding a baby. These doodles up here, I found words in them. I've got like a whole message of things that came from my subconscious mind.
Oh wow!
That came from these doodles.
Even words come from some of these
random
marks.
Even right here, this one says, "Anything for my love."
Wow.
Yeah. So doodling very fast is another way to let go of control. Doodling with your eyes closed. Is another way to let go of control. Drawing upside down.
Yeah.
And also timing yourself, like giving yourself like 30 seconds to do a doodle, you know.
Oh yeah.
And then coming back, looking at it like you would with the pastel, see what shapes I have, what am I seeing there. So those are the kinds of things that I teach people to do. In terms of letting go of control. That's really what it's about, letting go of control.
Right.
And then helping them. The other thing is based on my, how many years now? 8 years of experience. Because sometimes people will come up with something very raw from their experience, but not knowing where to take it. You know, how to expand upon it and how to deepen that realization. So I kind of teach people how to do that for themselves, which is basically like a questioning process.
Right. Yeah. Wow, that's fascinating. So I was just thinking about how with the way I critique things, I don't even necessarily try and critique things. I just see how somebody feels about it, and then at that point, I like to think at least I've helped people get to maybe not necessarily the end game, but at least further steps, just by simply asking questions like, well, what do you not like about it? Or what do you like about it? And just ask questions, and then even if I'm doing that to myself, sometimes the answer comes just from those versus trying to assume you know what you want or not. That's interesting. I guess going a little bit maybe more into just who you are as a person. What do you think in your mentality, whether it's from mom, dad, or the way you was brought up, keeps you so open-minded to be able to apply that towards all of this?
I would guess that, so I grew up in North Texas, like 4.5 hours north of here, Bible Belt, very conservative, very religious, and growing up as even though I didn't call myself a gay boy back then, I didn't even really know what that was. Clearly that's always who I've been. Being a little bit more sensitive than most, you know, when some boys were out playing football and what have you, that absolutely scared me. And just being more drawn to stuff, you know, more introspective kind of things. I've always been that way, but I just didn't really fit in to what the majority of people were like there. And then also trying to reconcile my own sexuality, homosexuality, with the religion that I was brought up in. Kind of, you know, you've got the religion saying this is wrong, but you've got this experience in yourself saying, but this is who I am, so how can what I am be wrong? And I think those, as difficult as those rigid experiences were back then, I do think that is the initial thing that opened up my mind, because I had to search for a way to love myself. I had to search for a way to fit in. I had to search for a way to say I'm a valuable member of society, because no one else was, you know, outside of my immediate family, no one else was telling me that. Culture, society certainly didn't tell me that back then. It's a different world today than it was back then.
Yeah, for real.
So I think that's what forced my mind to expand beyond traditional thinking, was finding a way to fit in, or to not fit in and be okay with it.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I'm just so, that's so intriguing to me, because it's so easy for, I'm just always intrigued with how someone's struggles, for lack of a better term, can help them get to a better place later on in life. Granted, it's easier said than done, though.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so funny because, yeah, like some of the things that used to make me so angry, right? And this is my dualistic view of life in general, right? Some of the things that made me so angry back then, which was being, you know, discriminated against, experiencing, you know, bias, hatred, that sort of thing. What it did was it forced me to go find community within a group of people that would accept me and that would love me, and so to find a place where my sexuality was actually celebrated. And there was true celebration in it. But if I'd never had to deal with the discrimination, or the prejudice, or being the outcast, I don't think I would have ever celebrated my sexuality in the way that I do now.
Wow.
So it's kind of like, yes, I want the world to be an equal place. I do. I want everyone to be equal, and it's still not that way. But at the same time, I'm able to go back on those experiences and see the benefit that it did bring me. Because you don't see a lot of straight people out there celebrating their sexuality.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just because it's always been, you know, accepted.
That's so fascinating to me, and it's the irony in that, because I feel like I love shit like this, because not even on an artist standpoint, but just people in general. There's some things about us that can be so different, like our sexualities. Yeah. But we can still be so similar in the same regard, which, like, I feel like a lot of my things that I went through when I was younger helped push me to get me to Texas, basically. Just a lot of things that I went through when I was younger that probably weren't so bright helped push me to want to leave Missouri, which, like, I love Missouri. It's my hometown, and I can say whatever, but let somebody else say something disrespectful about Missouri, you'll get a whole nother Kyle. But besides the point, though, I feel like I can relate to that in terms of going through certain things. But what I think intrigues me is just the fact that you seem that you've let go of any animosity or any feelings. Like you mentioned about being very angry, but you seem like you're so okay now, and that same anger, you seem to release that, or at least be better off
for the most part. I still experience bits of it, and I think that's normal. And again, that's just back to the dualistic experience of life. But I think
feelings come back, and it's not just, I think people think that once you get rid of a feeling, it's gone forever. Right. No, feelings definitely come back. But what do you think got you to let go of some of those same things that might have kept you angry?
Well, I think it's just looking at as simple as it sounds, finding reason behind it, or finding the bright side to it. Like I said, you know, all of those experiences pushed me to find a sense of community. I mean, within the gay community, there is a sense of celebration and community like I've not experienced anywhere else. And it's amazing. It's amazing, and I'm so grateful to have had that experience. And I just see simply that experience would not be there had it not been for the prejudice and discrimination shoving me into it. So I think it's really just seeing both sides of it. But it doesn't mean that I've let go of, I still get angry when I see the discrimination on, and not just in sexuality, in all areas of life.
Right, because you can relate to it, so seeing anybody discriminate.
And then I still get angry about it. Right. But I think the trick is not to get stuck in it. You know, to be able to move in and out of it.
Right.
And people that get stuck into it, that's very much a victim mentality.
Right.
And
I think so.
While it may be warranted on some level, you just can't spend your whole life there.
Right. You
or I
can't.
can't.
Way to release it somehow. Yeah.
So when I expand the view to a wider, where I'm taking all the right and wrong out of it, and I see the good that has come from it, because I think everything has both good and bad to it.
Right.
So if we're able to see it from a holistic standpoint, then I think that's when everything shifts and everything changes, and that is another one of the big gifts that art has given me. Yeah.
Right. That release. That's super deep, super deep. I'm gonna transition into the one that I called Steven Tyler.
Right.
I love this one so much. Now my curiosity is, well, first off, a lot of these are on wood. Okay, well, first off, what do you like painting on or working on more between wood or canvas?
Well, the wood that's actually just a print. So the original exists. Let me grab it so you can see it. It's just, yeah, so here's the picture that we're talking about. This is actually just a print on wood.
Huh. What was it done on original?
It was this size and on
Oh, okay.
On a drawing pad with pastels.
Nice.
So then this was printed.
Wow.
And this was also done for a client, just like this one was done. And it was quite interesting because it's got the horns, right, that are coming up out of its head, and then all these colors. And so I just started to get this idea. I don't know if you're familiar with the I think it's called the Holi Festival in India, where they throw once a year. I think, is it part of Diwali or anyway? It's called Holi, Holi, not holy as in religious holy as we talk about it.
Okay.
And people will throw colors, like colored powders on each other in the streets, and people are just covered in all these colors. And so this became a conversation with my client about how to really let go and have fun, and to let go of some of the strict fundamental belief systems that were within her. And just learning to kind of indulge herself more. So I called this piece Holy for her because it meant, she had this kind of very strict religious Catholic upbringing.
Right.
And then you've got these devil horns here.
Right. It's part of embracing that.
Yeah, and then you've got, but holy in this sense, meaning something completely different. Right. Meaning the celebration of color.
Yeah.
So
the juxtaposition of that bright colorfulness, but then with something that's deemed as dark, and being okay with that duality.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so, but now here's another example of like this all-knowing subconscious mind, right? So I never really know much about a client before I work with them. So as we were talking about this festival, after I'd created the picture, her son had been to the Holi Festival in India and actually done it.
Wow.
Right? So
wait, after you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Oh, wait, no, before.
I learned afterwards.
You learned after. Okay, I thought I heard you say after. You learned afterwards that they had been in that, and you didn't know anything about her before doing this. Right. Yeah, that's crazy. It's like, I've never met anybody that's been involved in that. Yeah.
So this is
odds of that.
This is all about
wow.
synchronicity.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, the synchronicity, what it means is it's a deep knowing, and a deep connectedness that we experience on a subconscious level. We don't experience it consciously because we're here to be individuals, and that's part of this human experience, to be diverse.
Right.
But if you keep expanding that view wider and wider and wider, then you see where we're kind of all one and connected.
Word.
So conscious mind makes us feel separate. Unconscious mind knows that we're connected. So when we connect to the subconscious mind in that connectedness, then we begin to know things that we logically shouldn't know.
Right.
We draw a house that we end up living in.
Yeah.
Draw a place that we end up going to, you know, when you went to see the David.
Right.
You know.
Crazy. So
it does blow your mind, doesn't
it?
Yeah,
yeah, for sure. So on this one, did you start this one off like you did with that one? So was that pastels?
Pastels, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And these are a little bit deeper colors because of the Photoshop process.
It came out beautiful.
Yeah.
It came out really, really nice. And then from that point, you stare at it for a while and look at it, and then you started drawing some horns, or you started drawing part of the face, or...
I mean, this is several years ago, so
Gotcha.
I don't have as fresh a memory of this one, exactly which bit kind of came forward first, but a lot of times it's the eyes.
Okay.
Because I'm drawn to the eyes, and you know, they say the eye is the window to a person's soul, and you know, I feel a great point of connection in that. So
wow.
But basically the same process.
So that's the GoPro dying on us.
Saying it's done.
R.I.P. to the GoPro. So I wonder if that went for... Yeah, that was a nice little chunk of time. Huh.
Wow.
And I mean, we can keep going by all means. I could slide in any
put that down now.
videos.
No
For sure. I plan on just sliding the image of that up anyway, so you won't even have to. We don't have to zoom into that or anything like that. Wow, I'm trying to think on if. Wait, what medium is this?
That's acrylic.
Acrylic paint?
Yeah. Oh, okay. But this raised bit here is actually a molding paste. So it would cost a fortune to stack paint that high that fits.
Yeah,
so
that's a lot of paint.
It's a molding paste that creates the texture, and then I just paint it over it.
Wow. And that, I've seen there's another version of that online that's just black and white, right?
It's the same one, but I painted over it.
Okay.
Yeah, I decided I wanted to switch it up. Yeah.
I like that. And
I had
like a face melting away, or like water.
Yeah.
Off the face.
Yeah. For me, that's in Greek mythology. It's the energy of Dionysus or Dionysus. I'm not sure how you say it. And that's the god of wine and fertility and drunkenness and partying, and so there's more to be done with that. I think I talked to you about how sometimes I speak the words that emerge in my heart when I create a piece, and so I recorded a whole message based on this picture, and I'm going to take the words and paint them all across the back, just very lightly, just so it's kind of very subtle, like almost like you have to really look to see what it says.
Yeah, give people a reason to get up close to the painting. I like it. That's awesome. That's really cool. So what is it about? Because I've noticed a common trend, like pretty much as soon as we went to online and looking at the images online, I noticed the common trend of there being portraits on a strong majority of them. Is there something about portraits that you think draws you to that subject matter? Because it's not to say that you just do portraits, but portraits is a strong majority of the subjects that come, and it's not always the focal point, but it typically seems to be, and then you dance a lot of other like hieroglyphic images or words and other things within that and make this really nice push and pull with those things. But has it always been like that? Because you have some other stuff right here that aren't portraits.
The majority are portraits because there's this condition called pareidolia.
What's that?
it means there are some people that see faces in everything that they look at.
Oh yeah.
So in a tree, in the bark of a tree, or the rocks of a mountain.
I think I have that.
I think several people do.
Yeah.
A lot of people do. And so I automatically see faces in my work. So I just, instead of kind of pushing that aside and saying I'm tired of drawing faces, I just kind of embrace it and allow it. The other reason is because I find a face makes an energy more relatable. Right. I like to look into the eyes, or just to look into their being. I mean, for as long as we talked about when I was a kid, and I wasn't out playing football, I liked to do other things. One of those things was to go through old family photos. Like every week I would sit down and go look through the same old family photos, and I was just intrigued by people's faces, and I just liked looking at them. So that's the other reason. Yeah, I find it just becomes the energy becomes more relatable when there's a face. And then some of these others, I call these are versions of mandalas for me. So
yeah, that's what reminded me of.
Yeah, not in the traditional sense, the Buddhist or Hindu versions of those, which are very ordered and almost always a circle. But for me, and this is another thing that I teach in my course, is how to create mandalas for specific intentions. So one could be to release unwanted energies or unwanted fears, or just what I call a clearing mandala. Another would be manifestation, so to focus on the idea of something that you want, but it's all going into the canvas.
Yeah.
But not like it's not logical though. So like if you want a car, it's not that I tell people to draw a car and focus on that.
Right. Because
that's just very logical, linear thinking. What I teach them to do is to focus on the feeling of what it would be like to have that car, or to be in that new house, or to be healthy, or to be traveling, or whatever it is that they really want, to imagine themselves actually doing that, tapping into the feeling, and then using pastels or paints or whatever to create something that's abstract. So you're not trying to draw anything, you're just feeling something, and whatever happens through the pastels or the paint or the pen is really kind of secondary.
Right.
Because for me, what's happening there is you're connecting with the subconscious mind, which has less fear than your conscious mind. And it's communicating to you in a language that it responds to. So a language that is visual, that is not words, that is not defined shapes, right?
Right.
And then you can feel that energy basically, and that energy is being broadcast to you as you look at the picture. So even if you're not consciously thinking about traveling or buying a new car or buying a new house, you've captured the energy of it on a canvas, and that subliminally speaks to you and reinforces that feeling within you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
And then, what else was I going to say about that? Yeah, anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I had ways where I think I would suggest to someone else, but I'm curious as to how you kind of help guide people into freeing their mind and opening their mind for creative purposes. I'm curious as to if you met a younger artist, if you met someone else that was like just a huge super fan of your stuff and was like, Roger, I really want to get to a point of having some strong portraits along my pieces like you. How could I get to the point of getting better with my proportions or dimensions with people, but still being into that? I'm curious as to how you would suggest someone to get better at the realism or portraiture in any aspect. Are you against looking at images or anything?
Oh, no. I have huge respect for it.
Yeah.
it's just not my process.
Right.
And I don't think, like, I suppose anyone can learn to draw. I don't really know, but it's certainly, like, I'm so far from where I would want to be in terms of realism, that I can't see myself getting there.
Right. Yeah.
In what's left of my life. But so yeah, I would say if someone's interested in realism, then I'd probably suggest they actually take formal lessons and see if they can do it that way. Sure. But if someone's saying I want to create pictures like you're creating, then I'd say you've got to let go of everything that you thought that you knew and enter into the place of not knowing, and allow something to reveal itself to you. And for me, that's really what visionary art is. It's like the vision is revealed to you, by you letting go. And when you really do that, you'll be surprised. You'll be shocked at what actually comes onto the canvas. Yeah.
Do you think you can pull that off or can you do that without the wash? Because that immediately made sense to me, to put something like that and then to kind of stare at it and to kind of let shapes come into that. Can you just look at a pure blank canvas and just make your own shapes out of that as well? Or was that really the thing that helped you get into this aesthetic of yours?
The only way that has worked for me, and it's only been a couple of times, is where there were like some shadows from somewhere that were on it, or the paper had kind of been wrinkled in a way, and there was still some level of texture to it. Yeah. The only other way, like if I were just to imagine a face, kind of, like I can see a face right now, right? But in my mind's eye. But now I will not be able to, because I've tried many times.
Because that's you trying to go back in the analytical part. How do I get this versus let me put something on it first, and with my open mind, and let that come as it is, and then that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I see what you mean. Because when you're staring at something blank, then you're forcing yourself to put an image on there versus. And
I just wouldn't be able to do it justice. It wouldn't look. It would not look the same as what I'm seeing in my head.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah, and it rarely ever does. Yeah, I tell a lot. It rarely ever does. I love that part. To when people are trying to learn realism or whatever, like you gotta accept the fact that it's never gonna come out like you want it to be, ever. Now, you can still make yourself proud and still shock the hell out of yourself. Sometimes there's those moments where like you didn't think you could do it at all, and then you're like, "Whoa, I did this! Like this is amazing!" But it's still, I'd argue, you're still gonna look at something and like, "Oh, but I could have did that part better. I could have did that part better." I don't think it's ever masterful. Like there's always something that I don't know. Yeah, there's always something that I could look at and say, yeah, that part I could have did a little better. But hey, I'm still proud of it. I think that was a good growing part for me personally, just getting to the point of finally looking at something that I did a year or two ago and be like, damn, I could have did so much better than that. Like I'm to a point now where I can probably reflect about even 4 or 5 years back and like, damn, that's pretty good. Like, yeah, that's not too bad. Like, you did pretty good on that, Kyle. And then it's like this weird out-of-body experience because I remember sometimes looking at that source image and having those doubts of like, there's no way. Like, how am I going to do this? But still being crazy enough to try it anyway. And then you shock yourself. And those moments are really, really cool. Those amazing, amazing moments. It's hard not to, I call it the touchdown dance. It's hard not to do a touchdown dance afterwards when you doubt yourself so much. Right. And then get to that point of like, yo, I can do it. I did. It's extremely empowering. I love that part. I know there's another question I had in the back of my mind, but it'll probably pop up in a second as I ask this one. Okay. Where do you see yourself going artistically? Do you have any goals for yourself or any new aesthetics that you see yourself doing or anything of that sort?
I think what I'd really like to do next, which I didn't really have a chance to do in the East tour, but I'd like to have an exhibit of my own that is not just pictures, but where there's I don't know, like even documents or film or something that kind of explains the process behind my work. Because that's what I found, and I was interested to try it in East, was to, well, let me just show my artwork, even if people don't know what my process is about, and that was kind of interesting. But what I came to realize is that I enjoy people finding out what the process is, and I think my work is more powerful when they understand what I went through to get to it.
Right.
And so I'd love to have an exhibit somewhere where people can kind of come in and they can see like my work from the very beginning, like some of these very beginning sketches with some sort of guided explanation that takes them through all the different stages.
Right, like that's how he got to that?
Right,
yeah exactly.
So it's really kind of self-explanatory.
Yeah, I always like that. I think so many artists overthink how, like, I guess a lot of artists get worried about people stealing an idea or stealing the process or something like that, but I just don't think somebody can clone your process through watching your process. I mean, I'm sure there are some people who can copy and paste. Like, I'm good at it. I can look at an image and duplicate it, but at the same time, it's like I said also, it's never exactly like that image.
Right.
I just can't see how someone watching one of your videos, like I said, I can copy and paste stuff, but I can watch you all day, but it would take me a really long time to get from that red to that green to that yellow like that. It's just our minds are different. Our strengths are different, like literal hand strength, the way we the way we put something down, like it's just, I don't know, so many people just overthink that part so much. And then also underestimate how many people can learn just from watching your process. And just, I don't know, I think it's just a really inspiring thing. I think it's almost tragic when some artists get into the thinking they have to keep a whole bunch of secrets. I mean, there's some stuff, of course.
I think it's just fear-based, and, you know, that's going to just spill over into other parts of their lives, you know.
Yeah.
I don't think there's not much original left in this world anyway.
Right,
We've seen it all, we've heard it all. And I struggle with that even when I publicly speak about my art and the things that I say, because even as I hear the words coming out of my mouth, other people have said stuff like this, but I just keep reminding myself, well, no one said it exactly like I've said it.
Right.
With my personality, with my temperament, with my energy, and
your experience.
And that's how people respond to things. So, yeah, that just reinforces what you just said. No, it's always going to be a little bit different.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure. Man, I'm gonna be so mad. I know there's one more that I had, at least one more, and I'm gonna get in my car and be like, ah, damn, this. I don't know. It's blanking right now, but I think
because you're trying to reach for it.
Right.
You're
trying. Yo, and that's just the way the universe works, I guess. Yeah.
Let it go.
Right. Yeah. In due time. I think and if this intrigues you, of course. Just something to think about, because you're already in the process of like recording stuff anyway. Like eventually, going back to the viewers. I definitely don't plan on showing my face for every episode, because honestly, guys, I don't care. Like, I mean, the fact that people want to see us sitting and talking, that's flattering, I suppose. Thanks for wanting to see our faces, but I just find it can be so much more instrumental for other artists if we show our processes. Like, that's the reason why for each one I was just doing different drawings of sorts for each episode. And eventually I want to have for each guest, granted if they're comfortable with it, to show their process. And like the guests that I actually have on the episode, not only are we talking about your process, but also showing that to some people as well. And it's going to vary. Like, not all artists are going to be like, oh, I'd rather not show my face. And some artists get nervous as soon as I put the mic up, which is hilarious, but they're comforted when I know, well, at least we're not on camera. So some artists will be okay with being on camera. Some will be okay with showing their process, but just something to think about. I think I'm going to eventually do some reoccurring episodes where I bring the guests back to do another one.
Yeah.
Retouch on some things, some of the questions I forgot about, ask some of those, and then just see where we're at and see where you plan on going, seeing what things changed or evolved, different stuff like that.
We could even go through some of these little exercises that I teach on my course, like the doodling exercise. And that'd be, I don't know, see, that even me, like, going into thinking about doing something like that, I don't know if I want to record my damn self doing that. Well, I could just do it. I could just show you.
Right, yeah, we'll let the master go to work at what he does,
Then when it's over with, you can just try on your own.
Granted, I just have to put some really big disclaimer. I don't know what this is going to end up like, guys.
Right.
Like, don't, because so many people look at my stuff and they immediately think every time they're going to get some, like, photo realism. I was like, no, not all the time, guys. Like, like, I compare it to basketball. Like, some days you can make all your shots, and some days you feel like you can't make a shot to save your life. And
right.
With the more practice, the more, I guess, to stick with that metaphor, the more I feel like my shooting percentage is going up, so I don't miss as much. But every now and then you still have those moments where like, oh, I just didn't have it on that day. Which, if we do an episode like that, guys, that'll probably be one of those days.
But then that's just your humanity, isn't it?
Right.
I think that's what people really respond to.
The moments where you're not.
Well, yeah.
Your full self. That makes sense.
No, I think they respond to. I think people respond better to flaws than they do perfection, because it's real, it's human.
Right. See, I feel like that so much, which is a big reason why I like venting on social media sometimes. Not to an extreme level. I've learned that some stuff not everybody cares about, but then there's certain moments where, like, I had to make a post, I think, like, a few months ago. It was like, guys, not every time when I put a deep thought is it some beacon for help. Sometimes I genuinely just want to put my thoughts out there, and I think younger Kyle was so assertive with how I felt, always trying to establish my feelings and always trying to let people know exactly how I feel. When the older I get, the more I'm like, you don't know how you feel and you don't know what you want all the time. So I think now I just like to check myself, and even if other people can't catch it, I try to correct myself on things that I may have thought when I was younger. I take pride in having something that I may have thought was some deep knowledge, and then looking at it later and be like, damn, that was stupid. Like, that just doesn't even make sense. Like, I love those moments personally. So it's easy to get that lost in translation sometimes when people might think that something's deeply wrong, but I just really like showing, like, I'm not perfect. Like the women who are just stunningly gorgeous that have a bad day and have that courage to show their face when they're not feeling stunningly gorgeous. Like, I think that's powerful. I think that speaks to a lot of people in this day and age where selfies and filters and all of this stuff, social media, can make us look like we're so much more happy than we really are, or perfect, for lack of a better term. And I agree with you completely. I guess that's my rant on that, but I agree with that. I think it's much more fulfilling for other people to see when their role model is having a bad day, because then it's like, okay, like, I think about that a lot. I think about all the time, like, Oprah did not have a job at 27. Jay-Z's first album came out when he was 27. Like, and if I'm trying to get to some type of status like that one day, or if I'm trying to be hopefully anywhere near as influential, I got to remember that. Like, Steve Jobs wasn't Steve Jobs at 27. It takes a really long time to get to that level. So I don't know.
But you have this is the words emerging in my heart, right? Okay? So a message for you is that you have no idea how much you already affect the world around you.
Right.
Because even though in your mind you're just doing these little little podcast. You come, you set up a microphone and your GoPro and what have you, and you're just, this is again that ignorance is bliss part, right?
Right.
You're not trying to effect this major change in the world, yet you are already, because people are watching your stuff and things are clicking inside of them, and then they're going off and making new decisions in their life because of that. And I'm not talking about major life decisions. I'm talking about little stuff, and it's just like this ripple effect
that can affect other people and create other
this butterfly effect. So I think it's true for you and for everyone out there that we have little idea how much we influence the world around us just by being human.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. I think we should end on that right there. I like that we got deep, but it got like right there on its whole full circle.
Yeah.
It felt like a full circle type. Good somber ending right there. So, I think this would be episode 8. I think it'll be 8.
Great.
But who knows? I'm getting to the point where I don't really care to track which episode it is and all of that. I think I'm gonna get a lot of interviews on deck, so I might not know the exact sequence I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna just take pride and just continue to keep on doing this and just keep meeting other awesome artists like yourself who are just willing to share their process and all of that. So we're gonna get you back on here again. Once again, the Instagram is Roger Hanson Love, correct?
Yeah.
All right, this is the moment where I pull the credits up, and
we're
gonna have that. And I'm gonna throw that at the beginning as well, so people.
And that's the YouTube channel as well, and that's the website address as well. So.
Awesome. Well,
Roger Hanson was taken, so I had to add the love at the end.
Oh, okay.
But it's like happy accident. I like it now.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and you didn't have to have any numbers or underscores or anything fancy. Yeah, it's rare to just have something with no numbers or anything. So kudos to finding something unique, man.
Thanks for inviting me.
Well, yeah.
And being a great host and like asking amazing questions.
Thanks, man. Yeah,
you ask amazing questions.
No notes on that one too.
Yeah.
Hey, I like those moments where I'm so curious, where I know I'm gonna have some questions and stuff. Your process was just so unique to me, so I knew this was gonna be a really insightful episode, not just for me, but for anyone else that's listening as well. But to anybody let's see how long we almost got to 2 hours.
Did we really?
Yeah, we're at 140, 147.
Wow.
Yeah, it flies, man. It flies. It's really fun. So to anybody who's still 1 hour and 47 minutes into this, thank you guys so much, because that's really awesome. I don't care whether you listen to it all one way through or you kept listening in 10-second intervals. I don't care. I appreciate y'all so much. Thank you once again, Roger, for being on this. It's your boy Track signing out. The Artist Podcast. Go ahead, subscribe, like, do all that cute stuff as well. We appreciate y'all, and I'll see y'all on another episode. We out.